Hello, I'm Michael, and welcome to MD in the Shop. Like my father in law Dieter says, it's time to shut up and work. All right, so let's talk about MD in the Shop and what this channel is all about. And the goal of all this for me is to share with you guys projects that I'm working on, like the Silverado Pro Street truck that I'm going to build. Some other stuff too. We've got a drag car and other various projects on the go, and some of the techniques that are going to be used to build things for this truck, and how to set up a truck like this for racing, and also to inspire people. I want to inspire people to go out there and start building stuff, and to show that you don't have to have a huge budget and you don't have to have a big shop and fancy tools and all that kind of stuff to be able to build something really awesome with your hands. You know, in my shop here, I've got a two-car garage. It's 20 by 26, so it's a little bit deeper than most. I've got a nice workbench back here, which is awesome. But for the most part, it's a two-car garage like you'd find in most houses. And, the biggest piece of equipment that I have in the shop that, most people might not have, but is probably a good idea if you're going to build something like this, is a TIG welder. I use a lot of hand tools for stuff. I use angle grinders and basic mechanic tool sets, set of torches, and a drill press. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm going to be using for the most part to be building a Pro Street truck. And I have built some pretty cool projects before in the past. I'll throw a couple of pictures in there. Uh, One of the first projects that I ever built myself was a S10 pickup truck with a small block in it that was lowered. That was pretty fun. I did that when I was about 19 years old with my dad. And also did a couple of back half Camaros. One was basically a pure drag car, full interior, cage, all that stuff. And then my dad and I built a 1990 Trans Am, which we still have and race today and still do all the work on. So we've torn that thing apart a couple of times and put it all back together. Even had a little bit of a fender bender. Had to do a lot of welding to put that back together one time. And so the goal of this is to share the process that I'm going to go through in building something really cool, and to inspire people to go out there and take on some projects of their own. I'm a big fan of the, build it, don't buy it kind of mindset. So, we're going to go through a lot of tubing and plate steel and stuff like that and make brackets of our own. And yeah, you can buy a lot of the stuff. You can go online and order and have it shipped to your house the next day. But I'd rather go get, a chunk of aluminum or steel and grab a bender and a torch or whatever and get at it and make it myself from scratch. There's a lot of pride I find in being able to say, I took that pile of tubing and I turned it into something really cool and awesome. And that's what I want to share with you guys, is how to make that happen. I'm by no means perfect. I'm by no means an expert in all of these areas. I've got a little bit of knowledge about a whole lot of stuff. So I'm sure there's going to be people picking me apart about how I'm doing something. And by all means, if you know an easier way to do it, please let me know. I'm always about finding new ways to do things too. So I want to use this as a resource to share ideas, show how to build a cool thing in the process, and have a lot of fun doing it. I live up in Canada and it gets pretty cold here in the winter times, and I find that, January, February, and into March, it's nice to have something to work on other than work. So that's my goal, is to spend a bunch of time out in the shop working on this big chunk of steel here and turn it into something pretty cool that hopefully maybe this year I'll be able to be driving around on the streets. So stay tuned. Make sure you click subscribe and ring the little bell for notifications for new videos. The goal is to get out here every week, and crank out some work and share the process. And I'm excited to get going on this journey. So let's get started. All right, let's take a look at this first project that we are going to be working on and spending probably the next several months on in the shop here, and do a little tour of the shop as well. I wanted to, again, illustrate that this is all being done in a two-car shop, basically a two-car garage, 20 by 26, with mostly hand tools that you're going to find in a lot of shops. You know, the biggest thing that I've got out here is a TIG welder, and we're going to build some pretty awesome stuff using that and a couple of other specialty tools along the way, but nothing radical or crazy. You know, one of the first things I've got to build for this thing here is a basically jig or a fixture so that we can make sure that the chassis is in good shape. So yeah, this truck here, I actually picked up from a friend of mine, and he picked it up. So it's been around for a while. It's never actually been on a track or on a street or finished. So spent most of its life sitting in the backyard out in the grass. And that's another reason why I want to pull everything apart and check everything, make sure that everything is in top condition, and bring it back so that it is in good shape. A lot of it's got scale rust on it, not too big of a deal, but we'll get it blasted and make sure that it looks good. So yeah, let's take a quick flip around and check out what we've got here. So the project truck is a 1999 Chevy Silverado. It is no longer all-wheel drive or an off-road truck. What we have here is a square tube chassis, approximately 2-inch by 4-inch. And it is set up for a 4-link that has urethane ends in the 4-link bars, so it does make it a little bit nicer to drive on the street. It is fairly complete, the chassis itself. There's going to be a lot of stuff that I'm going to be ripping apart here though and redoing just to make sure it's all in top shape. You can see here it even has a couple of, there's our shock mount positions there, and up top in that square bar we actually had a anti-roll bar that was bolted in place. Not too keen on a bolt-in anti-roll bar. We're going to make one that's more solid. So the box itself's already been stripped, and you can see we've got one tub, very rusty in place, and only came with one tub. Not sure where the other one went. So we're going to end up having to manufacture a bunch of that stuff. But the frame is good, looks solid, looks like the welds are good too. It is a regular cab. It's been stripped as well. We still have the original dash, steering wheel, instruments, all that fun stuff. Still not sure what I'm going to do about keeping all that stuff or not. I'm on the fence on a couple of these things. And then here, somebody's done a lot of work on the front end of this thing. So this has been set up to run airbags with a 5-inch drop, and it has aftermarket control arms with Beltec 2-inch lowering spindles. Got these really, really nice. Well, they don't look so nice now, but they are weld aluminum wheels. Got some nice Weld Pro Stars. I'm sure those things are going to clean up real nice. And then for the back of the truck, we got these big suckers. They are 33 by 16.5. Massive, massive tires that fit real nice in the back of the truck. And over here we have the rear end of the vehicle, which is a shortened 9-inch rear end. It's been braced. It's got the 4-link bars already on there. We even have mounts for wheelie bars on there, and the tabs as well for the anti-roll bar. So quite a lot of work has been done to this thing already. You can see here it already has a set of strange axles in it. I'm going to be pulling that thing completely apart and starting from scratch, because I don't know anything about this truck at all. I don't know what the gear ratios are. I don't know what the setup is. So you can see here I've got my lengths of tubing on the ground. I got some 2x3 120 wall and 2x2 120 wall. We're going to be using that to make a table to put this thing on to make sure everything is all straight and in good shape. Because there's nothing worse than building a car and having it go down the street sideways. So the other thing that I'm going to do to this thing is, because I do want to run this thing at the track at some point in time, is we are going to put a roll cage into it. And my goal with this is to keep as much of the factory cab as I can. So keep the floors, keep the firewall. It's going to be an all steel truck. I'm not putting any fiberglass or carbon fiber panels on it, so it's going to be a bit heavy. But we want to get this thing as light as we can, keeping it all steel. Put the cage in it and then run it down the quarter mile. So one of the things that I did is I picked up a copy, which I didn't bring down here, of the SFI specifications for putting a chassis in. So that's the goal, is to build a real fun pro street truck, and a couple of criteria. Number one, it's got to be street legal. I want to be able to, bring a kid with me, go get some ice cream, drop them off at school, whatever, and just have some fun with this thing. I want to put a stereo in it so I can go do a little bit of cruising in it. I want to be able to run this thing on pump gas so that I can go to cruise nights and cruise shows and whatever. I also want to have this thing running under 10 seconds in the quarter mile. So those are my big objectives with this thing. Keep it street legal, have a bit of fun with it so I can go cruising, not just a trailer queen, and I want to be able to run sub 10-second runs with this thing. Basically drive it up to the track on a Friday night, make a bunch of runs, have some fun, drive it back home. So that's the goal. I'm going to take you guys along for the ride. And like I said, anytime you guys have questions, let me know. I'll go through each part of the process, why we're doing what we're doing. And I'm flirting with this idea of actually sharing the cost of building something like this, because I think that's another barrier that a lot of people have to doing something really cool like this is, I don't have the space, I don't have the tools, I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the money. And you know what? Those are legitimate barriers to jumping into a project like this. And, there are ways to get around some of those obstacles. If you don't have the space, hang around guys that are into cars and maybe they've got some extra space, and you can trade off some of your work on their stuff for a bit of space in their shop and using their tools. The money thing, it's a money thing, right? If you don't have the money, you don't have the money, but you don't have to spend $100,000 to build a really cool car, or you don't have to spend $50,000 to build a really cool car. You can do something really awesome, go to the track, have a blast, cruise around in a nice, safe car, if you're willing to trade off your time for maybe some of the stuff that you buy. And that's what I love. I love being able to do a project like this and not spend a ton of money and build something really cool. So it might not look like a show car that you're going to see at Autorama or something like that, or SEMA, but I'm going to be able to drive this thing and I'm going to have a blast doing it. So that's sort of the overview of what this thing is going to be all about, and the shop that we're going to be building this thing in. And I can't wait to get started. I guess I kind of already started, because this truck was rolling a week ago and I already tore all the suspension stuff out of it. So I can't wait to get restarted, like started, now that I'm cataloging all this stuff and documenting it, and share with everybody the process of building a pro street truck. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you ring the bell, so that way you'll get notified when I do new videos. The goal is to get out here at least once a week and get some progress done on the truck. And I'm going to keep track of my hours as well, because I think that's another part of this that can also be a bit of a barrier for people, is the time. And, years ago, we stripped down our drag car right down to the bare chassis. We pulled everything out, sandblasted it, put it all back together with new tin work. My dad and I did it in like 5 months. We did it over the winter. And the way we did it was we got together one night a week. I think it was like Wednesdays or Thursdays. There was nothing on, anyways. And then we would spend one day, like Saturday or Sunday, like a good 8 hours in the shop. And over that winter, we put about 500 hours into rebuilding the car, and we were out racing like end of April, beginning of May. So from stripped down to put back together in like 5 months. So you can do it, and it's amazing how those little, couple hour here, couple hour there, all add up at the end of a summer or the end of 6 months or whatever. So just keep chipping away and you get there. So let's get started, and hit me up with any questions you have about this project. I would love to hear from you, and we will see you all real soon.